let's go ahead and switch gears to our next kind of topic that we have for this podcast. This was an interesting one. Valorant games are being thrown due to online crypto betting. Have you heard about this? Do you know much about this?
No, this was actually, you brought this up to me yesterday, and, I hadn't heard anything about it, but I'm not surprised.
This is just crazy stuff. So basically what's happening is that so in Valorant, right, you have your unrated and then you have your competitive queue. And so all the pro players for like the VCT for the Valorant Champions Tour, like Sentinels, like Shazam, Tens, whoever, Sacy, they are playing in the highest ranks, right? They're in the Radiant lobbies. Those are the highest. That's the highest rank that you can achieve in that game. And so what's happening is that there are online sites that allow you to bet on the outcome of the pro player's team. So, for example, if Shazam kind of queues into a game, right?
Yep.
And he's playing against another team, you can bet on whether Shazam will win or lose that game, right?
So that round or the whole game?
The whole game. The whole game.
Okay.
Yeah. And so what's happening is that streamers are getting Q sniped by just like other people who are in Radiant lobbies but aren't streamers. And what's happening is that those viewers are getting into the pro players lobby and they are intentionally throwing the games because they have a bet on Shazam or whoever the pro player is that they're going to lose.
Oh.
And so what happens is that these stream snipers, they intentionally throw the game in order for their bet to pay off. So instead of having like a regular 5v5 match of Valorant, you're basically down one player because he's continually throwing and just dying off of each round, just going through mid or something and just getting sniped or just intentionally dying. And so this is a big problem because it limits the amount of practice that the pro players can have in those Radiant lobbies, because in Valorant, that's actually like where the pro players play. Like it's not exactly scrims or it's not exactly a real game, but it's as close as you can get without having to set up scrims between separate teams, right? Yep. And this is just like insane. And it's so insane because like betting on competitive games, I can understand. I think betting has a purpose and a role to play in esports, but I'm just afraid that it's going to take over esports like it did with traditional sports. Like you see the DraftKings logo on sports jerseys, on the court, on the field. I mean, so much of the experience has shifted away from like watching talented players play games or play sports and more to the actual, just focusing on the actual outcome of whatever's going to happen, right? It doesn't matter what happens in the game as long as my parlay hits, right? And I think it's a bad precedence to set. And the fact that Riot hasn't said anything about it so far, and it's already been like, it's actually been months. This has been happening for months, but it's just been brought to the forefront just, maybe a couple of days ago. And the fact that Riot hasn't said anything about it makes me think that they're trying to go into that space as well.
Yeah.
And I don't really know how to feel about that.
I think every major org right now is taking a deep, long look at where they're willing to go to make sure that their org can survive. So this almost goes back to like our original topic a little bit, where it's like with a recession impending, with things kind of shifting, we need to find better value in the way that we spend our money. And so social is going to be a great way to do that. If you can find a team or an individual that's a very good social media manager or chief marketing officer, or however that may be for you guys. But I think all orgs are looking right now, like, how do we make sure that we cover our player base? The biggest problem I have with that is that if you have a public queuing system where you can bet on matches, there's always going to be a little bit of abuse there because you don't have the professional understanding or cooperation that you get when it's two full teams of pros playing against each other, where the motivation is, I'm playing for my contract, I'm playing for my bonus, I'm playing for my team, a championship and for us, like the green wall. You know, it's like you play for all of those reasons. And I think that if they keep allowing people to place bets where there's a public queuing system,
it's wrong.
Constantly going to be abused.
It's
constantly going to be abused. Yeah. Whereas if you can shift off of it and just make it where it's pros on pros only, then that's a fair betting system, and that'll be better for the bookmaker. Because right now it's really that the bookmaker isn't smart enough to figure out to go check Reddit and be able to see. And you saw a similar thing with UFC fights in the late 2005 to 2010, where no bookmakers knew about fighting, and that these guys had sometimes fought in different countries or in different places, and so they had a beeline on them, and so it took 2, 3, 4 years. Bookmakers lost a lot of money. Now they know how to set the betting lines.
Right.
There might be a similar thing with esports.
I think it's bound to happen. I mean, along with that, with crypto regulation as well, I think those two are going to go hand in hand, and hopefully there's going to be a solution that comes relatively soon.
Yep.
Just because, it's unfair. It takes away from A, the viewer experience, and B, the pros experience in actually playing the game. It makes it unfun, because those games are just constantly being thrown. And these guys have like 5,000 viewers. Anywhere from 500 to 5,000 viewers, I guarantee one of them in that chat is going to be like, oh, man, I can make a quick buck if I could, just play. Like if I bet against Shazam for $100 and my return is 4-1, yeah, you're right. I'm going to go throw that game. I'm going to, Q snipe them and throw the game. And so it definitely needs to be addressed by Riot. I'm not sure how they're going to solve that, because crypto is, again, unregulated and decentralized for the most part. And so I think they'll have a solution, but I think it's going to be one of their own betting sites. So
yeah, I mean, Pete Carroll did it, or not Pete Carroll, I'm sorry. Pete Rose did it in baseball. He's still not allowed to be in the Hall of Fame, although he's one of the best baseball players of all time for the Reds. And, it would even be hard for a professional player playing a 1v1 or 2v2 challenge, right? And there's money on the line. Let's say you're paying for 200 is what a lot of these guys will play for. But in some cases, some of these guys jack that thing up to $1,000 or $2,000 because they're playing wagers and they want a little bit more money on the line because they've just gotten to a point where the 200 or 500 doesn't do it for them. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
You don't get that dopamine response.
Exactly, and that's what they're chasing. They're not chasing the money. They're really just chasing the dopamine, right? But if you, with that amount of money on the line, even pros would have trouble not going and placing another bet or something on themselves to throw, because if you put up 2,000, you got, whatever you're on the plus money line on that or something like that. You know what I mean? Very easily, like you could lose 1,000 playing your 1v1 wage, but you bet 1,000 with a 250 odd, and so technically now you're up 500.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like I can try and win. Worst case scenario, I don't win. I netted 5, or you know what I mean? It's either I won 1,000 or I won 500.
Yeah,
that's a win-win scenario. It's like the more of those that you allow, the worse off that betting company is going to be, and the less interested they're going to be in allowing other people to actually bet legitimately on esports.
Right.
So that'll be a problem.
Yeah. It's just insane, man. I can't believe games have become that competitive where it's just like, dude, people are betting on just regular ranked games. Please get a life, dude. Like, I'm begging you. Get a life. Oh, man.